Best advice you've received in real estate?
That's easy. The best advice I received was from my very first broker. When I got into real estate, I was not from here. I did not obviously go to school here. I didn't go to church with anybody. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know the roads. And we have a local paper, what's called the Sumter Shopper back then, and it had a calendar of events. And she handed me the paper and she said, I want you to go to every single one of these events, every single one of these things every week. She's like, and sign up to do something. So it was like Kiwanis Club, Rotary Club, Relay for Life, the local chamber. And, I just signed up for something and I just showed up every week or every month, I should say, but it was every week because there was a different one going on every week. And, back then my broker's name is Mickey Blackburn. It was Connie Mahan with Mickey Blackburn Realty for 10 years. But the best advice was literally to get in and do, and the rest would figure itself out. I had to come back to her too. I had to take notes because we didn't have phones, so I couldn't take a selfie, right? So I had to take notes and be like, "Look, I served coffee, right?" Or I signed up for sponsorship.
I love it. Worst advice you've received in real estate?
Worst advice, and I use a portion of this now, so no offense to anybody, but at the time when it was given to me, the worst advice was to go all in on buying leads.
Mm.
And we went, I would say it's probably around 2014, and we went big. We didn't just do a zip code or two. We bought all the zip codes, because we also really didn't know what that was going to mean. And the volume of business was incredible, but it was just, there was zero time for relationship making. Zero. It was just I mean, we made a bucket of money. We spent a bucket of money. Um, but yeah, buying leads as a broker now, I definitely, try to teach my agents a different model. But we went all in, and I probably can't remember one name of who I sold a house to that year.
Yeah. Yeah. More transactional, not
Yeah.
by design, but just by the fact of the sheer volume of leads that were coming in. I certainly understand that. And yeah, working by referral seems to be the name of the game. Connie Mahan is our guest today. I want to tell you about her. She is an exceptional realtor in Florida. She's the broker owner of the Connie Mahan Real Estate Group, which is an independent, award-winning full-service brokerage serving Central Florida in Sumter and Hernando counties. She's been named Realtor of the Year in both Lake and Sumter counties and recognized as one of the top 10 women to watch in the heart of Central Florida. Connie is also a Riz Media newsmaker and has been honored as Businesswoman of the Year by the Sumter County Chamber of Commerce. With over 2 decades of experience, she leads with deep market knowledge and a reputation for honest guidance that puts long-term trust ahead of short-term transactions. Believing real estate leadership extends far beyond the closing table, through hands-on volunteering, mentoring agents, and advocating for the customers and communities she serves. I want you all to follow her on Facebook. Search for Connie Mahan. That is Mahan. We will have a link to Connie's Facebook, also her Instagram. We'll put that in there as well. Connie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. I appreciate being here.
You have and for those of you listening, you won't be able to see this, but you have one of the most infectious smiles and energies. I've done a lot of these episodes, 700, I believe.
Wow.
And boy, your smile is just, it's one of my all-time favorite smiles. I get to look at this for another hour. I'm so
That's
happy
super cool
to do this. You instantly have made my day brighter. And I suspect you hear that a lot from clients. You have an energy to you that our audience is about to, no pressure, by the way, to act cheery and bubbly, but it is just kind of your disposition. And I am so excited to learn about you. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you start in real estate?
So it has become really kind of one of my favorite stories, because I had no plan of getting into real estate. I didn't know about real estate. I didn't own a home. I was actually in restaurant management in New Orleans and had come to Florida to spend some time with my grandmother and my mom. And then in that time frame, I was washing dishes at a local restaurant for the breakfast shift. and stocking shelves at a warehouse in the afternoon. Literally was just taking a break from life. And a friend of mine, a lady that I knew from the restaurant, she wanted to get her real estate license. And at the time, the only class that was being offered was in a town about an hour away on Tuesday and Thursday nights. And she wasn't comfortable driving at night because she was older. And she asked me if after my breakfast shift and my afternoon shift, if she could pay me to drive her to real estate school. And I was like, well, how much does a class cost? And back then it was only $250. And I said, well, why don't you pay for me to take the class with you and we'll just do it together. And that was it. I had a phenomenal teacher, that teacher, Nina Pappas. She had just come to Florida from California. She was a Greek woman, originally in the corporate world with Xerox, but just dominated real estate. And she was just super dynamic. And I mean, I was in just, it was meant to be. I was just in right away. And obviously, I quit the dishwashing job and I quit the shelf stocking job and just went all in.
Wow, and that is a big jump, by the way.
Yeah,
To go from, more of a more simple tasked job to now dealing with someone's largest financial transaction is a major lift, right? And that's an incredible. I love hearing stories like that. What gave you sort of the confidence to move from A to Z? You went from A to Z basically.
truly. Well, we'll call it my previous life. So I was in fine dining restaurant management right before. So dealing with people and,
Yeah.
expectations and that kind of stuff, I was already very comfortable with that. But I think what helped me is there was no social media back then, right? So I had nothing to compare myself to. I just knew that I was going to go out, do a
Yeah.
great job, deal honestly and fairly, work until the job was done. And I just had the consumer's best interest in mind, and that was it.
I am so glad that you said that, and I really appreciate your perspective on social media because it is a comparison game, and we often don't talk about this, and it's certainly we don't have to get into it too much on this episode, but it is something to think about that the expression goes something like we compare our insides to someone else's outsides, right? And we see that on Instagram in particular with the perfect filters and everybody looking a certain way. And I know if it was me and I was in high school and we had social media and I wasn't invited to a party and I didn't I, well, back then I didn't know I wasn't invited to a party. Maybe I heard
Yeah,
about it on Monday and then I would be like crushed because, oh, I wasn't invited. But if I were to see pictures of it on social
yeah,
media the next Monday, and there's an
yeah,
adult version of this as well.
yeah,
And and you said something very important because I started as a dishwasher as well when I was a teenager, and it didn't occur to me that there was anything like low level about that. I just went, well, I'll just be the best dishwasher,
absolutely.
and yeah, and I just kind of thought, whatever I do, I want to be good at it, and it doesn't because when you're good at things, people appreciate that and they pay
Mm,
you, and you t- tend to not get fired and you maybe even promoted and things like that. And I just saw that the people that had the most respect, I started in restaurants, were the ones that seemed to work the hardest, or at least appeared to, just do the take the job the most seriously as they could. And so I'm right with you on that. I think everybody should have a food service job at some point too, just
I
to
agree.
understand that is a rough job. And we don't often give our people in that industry as much respect as they deserve, and it's a grueling job. I did it for long
Oh
time,
yeah,
so I appreciate that. But you're right, real estate is customer service, and there's no more customer service than being in especially fine dining is really customer service. And you had to really be have that servant heart, I think, to do a good job as a server. And obviously that carries over into real estate. So let's talk about that journey. So you did kind of a night school situation.
yeah,
You had somebody sort of sponsor you, and then okay, you have your license, and
yeah.
then now it's like, okay, now I have to get clients. So how did that work?
So actually, I'll back up for 1 second. First, I had to find a broker. So
Terrific.
I interviewed with 11 brokers, and they all said no. Yes, they all said no. And then finally, I came across a lady who was an office manager of the broker that I ended up working with, and I interviewed with her as, really internally defeated walking in the door, but I'm
Sure.
still going to smile. I'm still going to walk in. We're still going to do this, right? And she said, I think Mickey will like you. And sure enough, I went. And at the time, and still to this day, she's just definitely a name in real estate in our area. I mean, she's an epic businesswoman. She was a great broker. And she took one look at me and she's like, I think we could figure this out. And that was it. So I had to start there first, was actually even getting hired. And it was funny because that first year, I was fortunate, or I won Rookie of the Year. And some of the brokers that I interviewed with, where they're like, that was a mistake.
I mean, 11 no's is
11 no's.
first of all, you're like, I assume you have the same disposition today as you did then. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's changed a little. I don't, but I suspect you're the same person you've always been. You're the most kind, like you are just a easy person to be around. I am shocked that anyone would say no to you. I am a recruiter. I recruit realtors. I would love to have you if I was a Florida realtor. I'd be like, I got to get Connie on here. So I'm shocked to hear that, but what a wonderful thing to be able to persevere, and God, that would decimate my courage. And the fact is, it certainly didn't decimate yours, and you got into it. So how did you find clients right away?
So we had very religious floor duty. So between, obviously having to fill out the calendar every week, like I was going to like, court ordered service or something, and then in the beginning, everybody wanted to get rid of their floor shift. I didn't understand why. As I continued in my career, then I was getting rid of all my floor shifts. So I got it, but I just took everybody's floor shift. So I was just
Yeah,
either at the office or at an
sure.
event all the time, all the
You
time.
said that you said that at the beginning when we asked about best advice was go to everything,
Go to everything.
be in the community, be a part of it, volunteer, give back, meet people, do all of the things that we all know we're supposed to do. Very few people actually, show up at the office, get there early, hang out floor time. I mean,
Yep.
all of these things. I once interviewed a top agent when I first started this podcast, and I knew nobody, and I didn't have anybody to ask to be on the show. And he was my second guest, and he was from a hometown, and he was a friend of a friend. And so I was like, can you do me a favor and be on my show? And he was the number 7 person in his community,
Wow.
top 7, 8. And I said, what's your secret to, he closed a home every 3 days. And I said,
Hmm.
what's the secret? He said, I get in at 7 a.m. and I start making my dials. And he had a schedule. And he said, I leave at 5 p.m. or whatever it was. And it was like, well, what's the magic formula? And he's like, no, that's it. And I went, but doesn't everybody do that? He goes, no.
No.
And so, yeah, amazing. Good for
Yeah.
you. So winning Rookie of the Year, how many deals did you do in your first year? Do you remember?
So I think not many. I think it was probably like six, maybe like five. I mean,
No,
it wasn't
6 is a
many.
lot. That is a
Uh,
lot for a
yeah.
first year. That's amazing. And then you've kind of just gone onward and upward since then. So tell me a little bit about how you think about real estate, and why you think you've you know really become a prominent force in your market.
So I tell my agents this all the time. They could absolutely, if they wanted to, maybe not an experience, but they could right now, if they wanted to, leapfrog me. I give them the exact recipe. They could totally do what I have done. And it's just a matter of truly realizing that what's working, and you just said it, what's working is working. That's it. There is no magic bullet there. I mean, yes, you're going to be on social and you're going to do these things, but you have to be out with the people, right? They have to know that you care before they care about you, right? I mean, it has to be genuine. They're going to sniff out somebody who doesn't have their best interest in mind. And I have a little task that I encourage them to do, which we live again in a small rural town, and we have a Walmart in our town, but you can go to your grocery store, your Publix, and I say, do the Walmart walk around. And every day back in the day at 5:30, I would put a loaf of bread in my cart and walk around. I wasn't there to shop for anything, but I would guaranteed walk out the door with at least having had one real estate conversation. They see me all the time. And so we call it the Walmart walk around.
That is such a smart. I've never heard of anybody doing that. That is brilliant. By the way, I want to pause for a second because I want to share what is on the back of Connie's right behind her up on our wall. It says someone else is happy with less than what you have. Someone
Amen.
else is happy with less than what you have. And boy, I had to read it backwards, but I got it. Just because of our webcams are backwards. But boy, that is such a power. I imagine gratitude is a big part of your life. Tell me
Absolutely.
about gratitude.
Well, I mean, I think that I love bringing in new agents. I love it. I mean, I'll take an experienced agent, of course, because I really want somebody to realize that we're so lucky to get to do what we do, which is help people, right, honestly and ethically make the largest decision of their life and make sure that they do it with as little risk as possible, and that the process is as pleasant, and that we get them the best deal. And the best deal isn't always the least amount of money, right? Maybe it's the right concession, or maybe it's the right timing, or whatever. So I mean, gratitude is huge. If anybody would have told me back in 2000, right, in 1999, that I would be here today with my name on a shirt, right, and sponsoring little league teams, I just would have not believed it, right? I mean, I'm incredibly grateful for the way that my life has unfolded and the blessings that I've had. But gratitude's huge for me, and I'm blessed. We have a great group here. I mean, I have a phenomenal group of agents, and they're all obviously all very like minded, and so it's a big deal for us.
Yeah, I suspect you walk around. You said it, and I grabbed it right away because I've been trying to implement this more in my life as well. This idea of feeling lucky,
Hmm.
feeling just like wow, even just hey, I got another day. Right
Yeah,
now, again, you know, how does that tie into real estate? Well, I, I don't know, but with respect to mindset, with respect to sort of getting up and going, I get to do this cool thing like you said, I get to help somebody ethically and honestly, good through possibly the largest financial transaction of their life, or certainly one of the largest financial transactions. I get to help them navigate through this. I get to help them, build a home with memories, and you feel super lucky to be able to do this. And I can just sense that off of you, and you actually just said it. And I think if if there's anyone listening out there, if you don't feel lucky to do this, I encourage you to start force pushing the idea of feeling lucky. Like
yeah,
literally
yeah.
think
They can
about
they
how
can call me. They can call me. I'll talk to them. We could have like
yeah,
a 5 a.m. chat.
Connie will help you feel lucky because the reality of it is that is going to help you when times get tough. And times do get tough. And this is a hard job. We all know
Oh
that.
God,
And
it's so
it's
hard.
the holiday season. It's a very stressful time for a lot of people, even though it's also a joyous time. It's a stressful time, and business is typically a little slower. So we know that for realtors, this isn't always a realtor's favorite month. But what we can do is feel lucky for the ability that we now are in a career that doesn't have a ceiling. How cool
Amen.
is that? You
Yeah.
know, and Connie, you weren't just rookie of the year. You actually have become realtor of the year. Why do you think you were chosen as realtor of the year?
So um, that was actually, I mean, not that being rookie of the year wasn't cool because but I really didn't understand being realtor of the year was really cool because it's selected by my peers of my association, right, and like the other professionals in our real estate industry. And I know the other individuals that are in my industry, right, in my local market and in Lake County, that are just as worthy. So um, again, we just show up. I mean, education is huge, right? I'm at all the association classes, right? So I'm probably just they're like, oh, Connie, she's the real estate nerd. Yeah, let's make her realtor of the year. But no, I just think it's just a all around commitment, I guess.
Yeah, you're all in.
I'm all in. I tell a lot of our conversation is probably going to be what I tell my agents. So I'm sorry, but I tell my agents, be obsessed,
Yeah.
right? And this is not mine, it's Tim Grover's, right? But be obsessed. When you're with your families, be obsessed with your families.
Yes.
When you're in work, be obsessed with work, right? And I was just fortunate enough that I was allowed to be obsessed for, the first 4 years of my life in real estate, and that I get to be obsessed still. I just, obviously, my obsession is a little different now. Now I love helping my agents build their books of businesses. Um, but it doesn't mean you can't have a life. You just be obsessed with that when that time is the right time.
Great advice, and be obsessed. I cannot agree with you more. It's gotten me really what being obsessed does, I think, is it's all about skill building. If you become obsessed with something, you will develop skill, and that's just how it is. I as I've gotten older, I've realized the idea of skills are really such a huge part of life, and you can just turn that motor, that obsession motor, towards whatever you want, and you can develop a skill. So if you're like not particularly good at finance, turn it towards it and make that
Yeah.
your goal this year. And so I suspect you do a lot of those things as well. I'm curious about balance. So balance, I don't know that balance is possible, but balance, we try to achieve balance, right? We try our best. How do you try to attempt to balance work and home life?
Well, I'm gonna be super, super vulnerable on that one. I don't do a great job, but right, knowing is half the
You're
battle.
human.
But the knowing is half the battle, and we are a single income household, and it's mine, right? So be it as all I want to be there, right? At the back of your brain, you're always like, well, at what cost, right? At what
Yeah.
cost are you fully present? But what I have been able to be better at, though, and it's my goal to be better at it in 26 as well, is to just, line out the days on the calendar before it starts, hand it to my family. That way they know what the expectation is as far as my days off, and truly just, try to honor that. But it hasn't been great. I'm not going to lie. It hasn't been great.
Well, no, I think it's important that the people that I bring on the show, I love hearing their challenges, because of course you have challenges like everybody else. It's challenges are the path, right? And so
Right.
the idea is, if one thing's going great in your life, something else isn't always going to be great, and we're always going to have problems, and that's just the whack-a-mole of life, and that's perfectly, it appears to be set up that way. And so if you're currently feeling like there's something a little off in your business or your life, yeah, it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
And then you can
Yeah.
turn your attention towards that, and so I'll help smooth out that rough edge. And then you can start keep just always polishing and smoothing. And
Yeah.
I totally agree. And I appreciate your vulnerability there, and showing that, yeah, you have things to work on too, because
Mhm.
it's really the only way we learn is through, you know, I don't want to call them mistakes, but opportunities to improve, right? We see
Opportunity.
like, oh, I'm not really maybe so good at that particular skill. I want to develop a better sense of, like you said, I want to be better at honoring my home commitments and my work commitments, and really separating that out. Yeah, that's an awesome thing to focus on. And I appreciate that you said knowing is half the battle, and that is
That's right.
absolutely right. To thine own self be true, to know those kind of things. um I I really, really appreciate that. Now, tell us about your team. Tell us how you have it structured, and how you help keep your team motivated and keep them moving forward.
Yeah. So we are, I think, what would be considered a traditional real estate model. We don't, everybody's independent. So we do call ourselves a group, obviously, just because that's the name I came up with when we started. But they're all independents. I don't have any teams currently, even that work, in the office. But the way that I try to explain it to them, and I think that they all get it, is, we're like a mall, right? And somebody's Macy's and somebody's Spencer's and somebody is Adidas or Foot
Yeah.
Locker, whatever it is, I don't know. And my job is to make sure that the mall is beautiful, right? But my job is also to figure out, man, how do I make Spencer's shine, right? How do I make Macy's shine? And so figuring
Right.
out who they are, right? Because a lot of my agents are brand new agents. They come here because we do train so heavily, and we are obviously very motivational. But for me, it just comes back to basics. You're going to be most successful if we can figure out who you are and what scope you want to work in. Because if you're trying to push luxury, but you really should be pushing vacant land, right? It's just not the same. And so I think really at the very, very beginning, identifying who they are. And listen, they can change. It's fluid, right? I mean, they can change, have a different business model next year. But identifying who they are, what they want to serve, and we changed it a little bit this year, to where when we did their business plans, of course, we're still looking at the numbers, but I everybody's got a certain number of client events that they have to have, and I want
Smart.
them all booked by the end of the year. And they've come up with some really cool things. Like I have one of my agents, he's a big breakfast guy. And so he's going to have a pancake breakfast. Right. And like that's perfect for him. It's just
Love that.
perfect. Right. And so just really figuring out where they're so comfortable, because when it's natural, it's just so much easier. But we have a weekly meeting. We call it a mastermind meeting, and it's where I share with them, what are the objections out there that I'm hearing? What are some scripts and dialogues? I'm very close with Alexis Bolin, and if you don't know Alexis, she's the queen of objection handling. You should have her on your show.
I will.
But it's just a matter of when somebody poses an objection, right? Ask them a question.
Yep.
And so we do that every week, and then we just started an AI workshop at night, just to kind of dip our, you know, I've fully adopted it, but I don't know how to put it fully in progress yet. So we're doing that together. But I'm very, very hands on with them, and I don't know that that's the business model for forever, but it's the business model that works for us right now.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I think you get obsessed with your agents, it sounds
Oh
like.
yeah, oh yeah,
And that's something that not every uh, in particular every new agent who gets into the business has, not everyone has that experience. And so if you are an agent that's looking to grow, I sort of think that that's kind of your avatar, is somebody who's super in, but they just need somebody to kind of give them the guidance and show them the way. I think obviously Connie is a great opportunity for that. And so if you are a Central Florida agent and you are not getting the attention that you feel you deserve, reach out to Connie. She would love to chat with you. And boy, she is she's kind and she's generous with her time and her energy. And like I said at the beginning, very infectious. And she's just a fun person to be. You can tell she's a fun person to be around. Let's talk a little bit about. I love the idea of events. You said you really push your agents to have as many events as possible. Tell us about that.
yeah. So what I obviously, in going back and realizing where the most impact was made in my career, and it was, having that built relationship, right? And that reason where you're not just there to sell something, but you have opportunity to talk, but it's not a networking event. I mean,
Right.
for my one agent that is going to have his pancake breakfast, like everybody knows that he loves to cook and that he loves breakfast, right? So it's just so natural. And I think if we let them have these events that are natural to them, and the sphere is obviously the individuals that like that as well. I just don't, I feel like it'll be easier for them to build those relationships, because of course they
Sure.
want to come in and they want to be, $1 million salespeople. And it's like, wait, right? What does that even mean? Right? Do you even know what that means? Right. So
Right.
let's make some relationships first, right? Let's give before we start asking.
Yeah, I you're absolutely right. I remember when I was first starting out in this business, and I had an agent say to me, she was actually on my podcast. She was a local agent, and she said, "Hey, I'm doing a client event. I would like to invite you to." And I said, "Okay." Okay. And she said, "It's a volunteer event at a animal shelter, and we're going to make toys for dogs out of ripped t-shirts and things like that." And I said, "Oh, that sounds cool."
Yeah.
And it was nearby where I lived, and so I thought, "Oh, good." And the reason why I went is because I wanted to volunteer more in my own life. And obviously, I didn't need her as a realtor. I mean, I was an agent, although I wasn't practicing, but I wanted to give back. I wanted to do that. It was fun. I
Yep.
felt more connected than to her, going through that experience with her and the other people that were there as well. And I
Yeah.
thought, what a cool profession that you get to have an event like that, where people get to have fun. They're giving back to these animals and being of service in their community, but developing relationships with each other. Not talking about real estate necessarily, but doing things that are good for like the soul and good for the heart
Yeah.
and having fun. And I go, there's no other profession I know that really does this.
I
I
agree.
I think about like I've hired attorneys, I've hired accountants, I've hired all sorts of people, doctors. no other profession I know does this really.
Yeah,
And I'm not here to cast judgment on that. I just think what a wonderful opportunity realtors have to go into their passions, whether it's
yeah,
pancakes or whatever it is,
yeah.
and be like, let's do this and let's make it fun. And I love that you really put a huge premium on that for your agents.
Yeah, they didn't want, and I mean, listen, we have to know our numbers, right? Because we're still running businesses, but they didn't necessarily want it to be about, I want to make, X amount of dollars by the end of the year. It was, I want to grow my business base by this percentage. And said, okay, well, how do we do that, right? Yes, you can be on social and you can get some Facebook ads and stuff like that, but how do you get that person to person where you make those raving fans? And again, you can do it on social, but at least for us, while we still have this small town feel, it's just a great opportunity.
What's your perspective on the givers get mentality? So like
Oh
give,
yeah.
give, give, and you shall receive.
100%. 100%. I mean, my agents know we all kind of feel the same way, right? Help everybody get what they want. You'll get what you want. Um, you know, Again, we go back. I know there's probably going to be brokers out there that will hate to hear this, but we don't look at the sales board to try to figure out, where the dollars are going to be. We're looking at the people and are we getting them to where they need to go? And then the dollars are going to be there. Of course, again, I go back to we still have to run a business, but
Sure.
I remember I was in the business when we had the market crash. And I remember right before the market crash, I was literally watching every person as if they were a dollar bill. And in my business, I was not in the right frame of mind, and my business suffered dramatically for it because I mean, of course, I never encouraged somebody to do something that wasn't in their best interest. But when a deal didn't work, it was detrimental. I was like, oh, my gosh, like this is a dollar amount as opposed to no, this is what's in their best interest.
Yeah.
And making sure, even when new agents, especially making sure that when they come in our door and put on our blue shirt, that they have 90 days plus of reserves in the bank to make sure the electric bill is paid, to make sure that groceries on the table, because if not, you can't focus on somebody else when you're hungry. I mean,
Right.
you have to feed yourself. And so I really try to make sure that their bases are as covered as possible, and that they're. I mean, I'm not covering their bases, but that they're thinking about it. Um, so that then they can do the best that they can do.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice, and you're right. It just making sure you care very much about your agents and you care very much for their success is what I'm hearing. I want to really just touch on what do you think distinguishes you from other agents?
So we have, I would say, probably personally, and this probably goes to the whole balance thing that I'm really not great at yet. Um, I'm incredibly involved at the local level in the municipal and government meetings, right? So as far as really having a really solid foundation on how our city has grown, where it came from, what's infrastructure doing, what's the prospectus, what are the DRIs that are coming into the area, where is the JPA grown, just all of the nerdy stuff, right? There's pretty much not a zoning or a city or a county meeting that I miss. And it makes for a very challenging schedule. Um, but I know for a fact that when people walk down the street and they see me, if they have a question about what's coming, what do they need to do? Is there property next to a property that's developing or anything like that? They're going to ask me. I mean, I have elected officials that call me because they don't understand the changes that are happening within their city, and to know that they feel comfortable and safe calling me and that I'll explain it to them in a way they understand, that's huge for me,
You've become an expert.
I suppose.
Yeah, well, you have, or certainly people see you as an
Right.
expert, and
Yeah.
and that is obviously super valuable because this is a professional career, and being professional means having knowledge, and in particular, going that extra step and going to those meetings and making sure that hey, I support this community, I'm in this community, I care about this community, I want to know what's going on in this community, I'm
Yeah.
going to attend on behalf of because of course I'm in real estate. This is important to me. And clients see that
Yeah.
and they see you as somebody that cares. And that is something that is really significant because that's all we really ever want in anybody that we hire to do a service. We just want them
Hmm.
to care about the thing they're doing to such
Absolutely.
a degree that they are a bit obsessed with it, which really means they're going to just have more information
Hmm.
than someone else. I want to really just ask, when an agent is struggling, because agents go through, of course, up and down times, and leads aren't always coming in at the exact time that we want. How are you encouraging agents to stay positive? What is it that you tell them to focus on? Give us a little bit of that strategy.
So this is going to sound like a bunch of fluff, what I'm about to say, but my goal is always um, to get ahead of it, right? So in October, we were already talking about what's your December with no deals going to look like.
Ah,
So the goal is, I mean, because they're going to, but if we can just prime them so much for how bad it's going to be or how bad it could potentially be,
yeah.
right? Then it's not, listen, when you've been doing this for 24 years, I've been in some really awful times, you know? Um, and so really it's, so it's, I think A is preparation, right? Preparation, kind of seeing that, what does it look downfield so that I know what to tell them. But the other part is, if they need money, in the next 10 days, because we've had situations like that, right? Where a deal falls apart and now this agent's counting on that check and it's like, where do I find money in the next 10 days? And we say, okay, well, we got to drive for dollars, right? Or we're going to call people and like sit down with them. And I say, let's look at your phone book, right? And listen, I know you can call this person, and this person, show them, talk to them about these lots that we know are available. And you'll probably get even if it's a little cash deal, right? If we can score a little cash deal to help their self-esteem, right? Because their mindset's going to be wrecked when that deal dies. So if we can get them a little win, then that's great. But it's just a matter of getting as ready as possible. But then if you need quick dollars, figure out where can I get quick dollars.
I love it. You used a term that I call cope ahead. This idea of thinking about what's coming and preparing ourselves. It's a very stoic kind of approach where we think about, hey, everything's going to fall apart in the future, and that's okay because I can prepare for that. And if I prepare for the things that fall apart, most things don't fall apart, but if I prepare for that, I will be ready and I will be very delighted to
That's right.
when things work out a little better, but at least I'm prepared. And that is something that, you know is not often talked about, this idea of thinking, coping ahead, for the challenges that are coming. And
Yeah.
it's something that I need to do a better job of myself. It's like, what happens if our advertisers go away on this show? Oh, that might happen, of course it
Yeah.
could. And then I have to think about, okay, I have to have a plan in place for that. And again, we realize in real estate that what we're doing today really is going to bear fruit like 90 to 120 days later, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like everything we do today is basically going to have a reaction in 3 months or so. And or 3 to 4 months. And so you have this sort of window of time where everything you're doing is really for the future.
Yeah.
And that's what's kind of interesting, is being in the present, but everything you're doing is really for the future in this business, at least.
Yeah.
And I think that is a really sort of healthy way to look at real estate, because so many things are long-term gains, or so many things are long-term goals, that instead of short-term gains. And these are very fulfilling things. So what's cool about real estate, what's hard about it, is when you need something to happen right away. That's hard.
Yeah.
But if you can, like you said, if you can have reserves, if you can, sort of weather the storms of that, that if you just put your head down, like, you're basically planting seeds that are going to bear fruit, in the coming months. And it's really neat to see. I think it's one of those cool professions that does have the ability, like, the pathway to success has been well traveled. Like, lots of people have done it. We know that there's people with really no business being in real estate who have made a lot of success, and people who shouldn't, be in the business because of their backgrounds, shouldn't have led them to this career, or they didn't have the particular training or whatever, and they've gone, or they became a realtor and they went to a brokerage that had horrible service and training, and they figured it out themselves.
Yep.
And so people make it in all sorts of other ways, and then they leave clues, or they write books, or they do programs, or they're like you, and they share those experiences. at the local level and the municipal level, and also they get obsessed. So I really appreciate Connie, someone like you who is so all in. It's really inspiring to me. I know hopefully our audience as well. And on behalf of our audience, I want to thank Connie for jumping on our podcast today. She is just such a wonderful joy. By the way, she is in Central Florida, and people leave their residences to have new residences in Florida. Sometimes later times of life that happens. Of course, people move down south. I know my parents have done that. Also, my sister. And if you are an agent that has people that are moving out of your area into Florida or vice versa, Connie would love to chat with you. So if you have an opportunity for her, reach out. Connie Mahan, that's Mahan. Find her on Facebook, Instagram. She's all over the place. And she's Realtor of the Year. Like, how wouldn't that be cool to say, I've got somebody for you? She was Realtor of the Year.
That's
That would be somebody I would want to refer to. So let's get those referrals over to Connie. And on behalf of Connie, obviously, we want to thank the fans and the listeners of the show. We appreciate you. You've been with us for, well, whether you're new or that you've been with us for years and years, we appreciate you. Appreciate our sponsors. Thank you to everyone. We're wrapping up 2025, and we're going to be coming into a 2026. We encourage everybody to help us out by telling a friend about this show. Think of one other agent that could benefit from hearing this conversation with Connie, and shoot them over a link. We're everywhere podcasts are served. You can find us, and also follow us on social media. Just search for us. We're there. And we will see everybody on the next episode. Thanks, Connie.
Thanks so much, DJ.